All right, baseball fans, here's the eliminating the Milwaukee Brewers video. Milwaukee, boy, they were on the brink of advancing to the third round of the tournament. 2 strikes in the 9th inning, 3 different batters, couldn't get the final out. End up losing a game 5, season's over. That's how brutal it can be in the carryover league. Every series you play is meaningful. Eliminating, best of, so forth. From March through August and then September and so forth. Brewers were 17 and 19 a year ago in the same spot. So they went sideways, 18 and 20. Hit 250 a year ago, hitting 258. Had a 370 ERA a year ago, it's 424. But otherwise, same sort of progress. And you know what? That's not a bad thing because they could be awful. They're still putting this all together in Milwaukee. It's going to take them 2 or 3 more years before the Sixto Lezcanos and Gorman Thomases and Ogilvies and all those guys show up and are great in the late 70s, early 80s. This team, boy, Darryl Porter has been a platoon catcher for 2 years. I hit 291 in a platoon. This year, 329 with 10 dingers in a platoon. It's like, well, why don't you make him the everyday catcher? He'll hit lefties. And he will. Pat Kelly could have been used more as well. He hit 322. So there's some of the problems. You have 2 productive hitters with under 100 at-bats. Steve Hubley was a nice everyday player. Lefties and righties, not much power. Ollie Brown, more thump versus lefties. John Briggs, only 4 home runs, but he had 28 RBI. Nice on base. It gets down to Scott, and now you're seeing that this is what I mentioned in the broadcast. He was red hot in March and April. Then he went into a horrible slump, and he still finished at 255, but only 19 RBI for an everyday third baseman. And then after that, just marginal players. Unfortunately, one of those marginal players is the great Robin Yount. It's 148 at-bats. You got to look at the walk column, folks. I've never seen this before. 148 at-bats for Robin Yount. He did not draw a base on balls. John Jeter did not draw a base on balls. Unbelievable, folks. 2 players, no walks for your Milwaukee Brewers. We can just double check that if you're curious. I know you are. We just copy and paste this stuff, folks. It's not like, there's a 0 there that's just permanent. Here's your Brewers, and there they are. There's the 0. Adding up all the zeros for Yount and Jeter. Jeter makes sense. He didn't have as many plate appearances. And Yount, same way. Unbelievable. No walks. See that? 0. So he had 0 out of 106, and then 0. And that is stunning statistically. Did not draw a walk, either guy. Only in Strat-O-Matic, probably, folks. All right. And we have the pitching. Mike Torres was the All-Star. He was 5-2 with a 208 earned run average. 3 complete games. Led the American League in earned run average at the All-Star break. Ken Sanders, the closer, now setup guy, and now near the end of his career, but he went out with a bang with an ERA of 108. Don McMahon, one of those 2 losses was the devastating loss in Game 4 we just saw. Jim Colburn pitched his heart out, got knocked around a little bit though, 453. Jim Slayton had a rough time, as did Gary Ryerson. And that adds up to an 18 and 20 Milwaukee team. Let's take a look at their stack here and see what dozen players are going to build for the future. Beginning with John Briggs. Good designated hitter type card. Not much of a fielder. But a lefty who can hit lefties okay, draw a ton of walks, home runs. Fun card to have. B stealer with all that homers and walks. Love it. Love it. Everyday player. DH probably. You got a catching platoon of Darryl Porter and Charlie Moore. They'd be around. They'd stick with the team for a little bit. Here's the card of Porter that did so well, 329. It's only a 254 card, so you really overachieve with it because you don't swing the bat over here. That's what Charlie Moore's for. Charlie's just okay here. Never hit for power. Was a good base runner, though. Sometimes he could even steal some bases. Nice high batting average, Charlie Moore, most seasons. Here's the Scott card that slumped after our torrid start. Still the best player on the team. We'll use this card at least one more year. Bavacqua. Now here he could third, second, and first, outfield a little bit. Probably running back at third base again. You have to go find yourself a second baseman. You don't have one presently. Here's Yount. And there are no walks on the card, if you're wondering. But he had 12, 344 at bats. Doesn't matter. If you don't have a walk on the card, then who doesn't really matter. You have hit by a pitch, though. You actually have one there. Very shocking not to get walks off the pitcher's cards. I mean, that is just incredible, weird luck. Pat Kelly arrived in Milwaukee because nobody else really wanted him. He was a Kansas City Royal. The White Sox acquired him in the actual major leagues, but they didn't want him in the carryover league. They had enough outfielders. So he stayed in the division, went to Milwaukee. Quality leadoff hitter, good base running and stolen bases, on base percentage. 274 hitter. Nice Ollie Brown card in the corner. That's a lot of production from the left side. A lot of homers and extra base hits. Decent on the right side as well. That's why the numbers look so good. 303 hitter. High OPS. And the pitchers. So we're only going to bring back 4. Here's the Jim Colburn card. Did very well. Look, it's a 20-game winner, folks. 314 innings, a 3.18 ERA. Fine starter 8. Now Slayton, on the other hand, really struggled this year, so maybe he turns it around. You know, you have a real bad year one season, you get a really good one the next. I mean, it's 5.75 ERA and a 1-5 record, when actuality suggests he should have a 3.92 ERA. Kevin Cabell. So he probably could be the starter in the rotation. But when you look closely, you see how much he dominates the lefties over here, which means he'd probably be better in the bullpen than in the rotation. Your starting lineup, you could load up with righties against him. He could come in out of the bullpen and increase the percentage versus lefties. 169 innings suggests he should be the starter, though. And here's the Don McMahon card. Don had 2 World Series with the Milwaukee Braves. That's right, folks. 57. And not the Giants, the Tigers of 68. McMahon gets 2 World Series rings, and he's 42 or 43 years old. And just this short little 30-inning stint, but a very effective 30-inning stint for the Giants in 1973. We'll run this card back next year. One more time, he's got to redeem himself. 2025, the year of redemption for Don McMahon. And that's the dozen players on the Brewers. We'll take a look at the 8 keepers, waves, and retires, and see how soon is now for the Brewers. How soon do they start putting that true blue brew crew together? All right, baseball fans, we take a look at the 8 Brewers who are going to be kept, waived, or retired, beginning with Steve Hubley. Kansas City Royal, I think he was a pilot, was he not? Yeah, he was a Seattle pilot. A Brewer in 70. We kept him here in Milwaukee, where he went to Oakland and Kansas City. And this is the year we just played. So he's got 1 more year left in Kansas City with a similar performance. Very similar performance. We just got to make sure that card exists in 73 for Hubley. We'll go to the roster sheet, and it should. We'll just double check by looking at the roster sheet to make sure that card exists. And in the outfield, there he be. So let's make him a keeper. Until proven otherwise, be optimistic. If we find we have too many keepers, he gets pushed into waivers. Next player is John Jeter. Jeter was in 71, had a great card. We expected him to go into retirement, but they brought him back with a 72 card. Here's the 71 card. Great year. And then this happens in 72. Now, in 73, he's still there for the White Sox. But the numbers aren't splashy. They're technically a little bit better. He's not associated here with the Brewers. So that means it'd be a good candidate for waivers, mostly because we know he's got a card available. 313 at-bats for the White Sox. We can double-check that. Here's the White Sox, and here's their outfield, Jeter. So, between the two guys, Hovley and Jeter, you'll probably just keep one, maybe none, but we'll put him on waivers. Next, Popovich. He's on a different team every year. He gets put on waivers, somebody else signs him, and then they're like, we could probably find a guy like you on waivers. So he's put there, and somebody else gets him. He's been a Cub. He's been a Pirate. We had him on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We've got him on Kansas City this season. He actually played for the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Pirates. So this is the season we play, the 194 card, basically because we like the versatility. He's not going anywhere, folks. He's got 308 plate appearances in 73. Batting average is actually a little bit better. We'll just check make sure he's got a Cubs card in 73. Just to make sure he gets waivers. And Popovich gets waivers. So that's a good, we've proven that you can find this guy. If you're really missing him, you can go get him. Someone will go get him. He'll be one of the guys on waivers that definitely get signed. Next guy, Ron Theobald, and I think he might be done. Got a couple cards for this guy. I believe we had a 71 and a 70. 71 and 72, there they are. So Strat made cards for each of these years. 5'8", 165, little guy playing second base. 450, 474 plate appearances, and then nothing. Guys, I hope something bad didn't happen to him. No, apparently not. He's fine. He just stopped playing baseball for whatever reason. I mean, a full-time 125, 126 games, and you're not even in the league anymore? Maybe he goes, let's see does he go to the minors? Let's go check it out. What happens in 1973? I'm sure he's got to play at least minor league ball, right? He's out in Hawaii. Oh, there you go. Well, you know what? He's hitting 221 in Hawaii, and he's probably finding better things to do with his time in Hawaii, I'm guessing. And that kind of, distracted him from the baseball thing. Anyway, Ron Theobald gets retired. That's half their hitters. Now, only one keeper, but remember, we could keep these guys if it gets really bad when we look at the pitchers. We're going to begin with Gary Ryerson. I don't recall him. I will look here. Only been a couple. Here's Gary Ryerson, black and white photo. That's not a good sign. It means I had a hard time finding his bio. There it is, 102 innings, and then 23 more in 73. That card's not going to exist. If it did, it'd be a poor one. For Milwaukee, we'll double check, see if we can give him waivers. You can only get waivers if you have a card, and he doesn't have one. So that means a retirement. So we're going to retire another player, Gary Ryerson. Okay, 5 in the books, 3 to go. Mike Torres, what a find this was for the Brewers. A guy who bounced around. He's a fun guy for me in the carryover league because there's always hope he's available. And I can go, where's Mike Torres? I can really use him on such and such team. You want to make a deal? Oh yeah, he's available. As most teams are willing to part with Mike. He parted with a lot of teams. I'm assuming most on good terms. Big dude, 6'5". It seems like he always pitched well and got traded. I mean, look, he was a decent Cardinal in 69. He was a decent Expo in 72. He won 20 games for Baltimore in 75, and then it was like, see you later. 16 for Oakland, bye-bye. Won a World Series for the Yankees, adios. Then he's throwing to Bucky Dent in Fenway Park. But what a wild, fun career this dude must have had. It probably had a million stories to tell. He'd be a great interview. Somebody put a microphone in front of Mike Torres. That sounds like a great story. All right, 72. 130 whip with this card. So it was remarkable it pitched as well as it did. Of the 4 years, you can get this card from Baltimore. Hey, look, if you're the Brewers, stealing from others is perfectly legit. And face it, Baltimore's not going to miss him. You could steal a 20-win card from the Orioles, and suddenly the balance tilts a little bit to the Brewers. That's how this team can improve. Their own guys getting really good, but also holding on to other people's property. And face it, he bounced all around. What if he decides to stick with the Brewers the whole time? You could push that Oriole card all the way into, say, the, well, you can push the 75, 6, 7, 8 card into maybe the Yankee card, eventually into this 368 ERA card of in 81. But in any event, hold on to this guy. He's your all-star for Pete's sakes. But is he available? Oh, yeah. You could trade for him. But, yeah. Next guy, Earl Stevenson. Earl Stevenson. There he is, 71 to 78. The lean lefty. Missed a chunk of time. Yeah, 12 more innings after. Yeah, he's done. No, actually, he's done all the way through to 77. Whatever, he's done. So they have a problem with too many guys retiring. They're going to have to make a move in the offseason to get rid of one of these retirees. They can't have 3. They can only have 2. And that's bad news because the next guy is Ken Sanders. He's very close to the end of a great career in the pen. 64 to 76. Actually, 76 is a good sign. Bunch of teams, but the 70 card we used, the 71 card we used, 72 we just used. So 73, does he get waivers? We'll come back to that. We'll go, let's move forward. 74, he's awful. Right? Yeah. 75, he's good. Do they make the card for the Mets? That would be a great card, but it's only 43 innings. If we get into a 1975 Ken Sanders card, that would be great. Or in 76, 50 innings combined between them. Oh boy, this is a research project, folks. All right. This is how we proceed. Step 1 is to avoid retiring the guy altogether. And that means he needs waivers in 73. So you have to have a Twin or Cleveland card in 73 for Ken Sanders. Twin or Cleveland. Let's go check it out. No Sanders there. No Sanders there. Twin. No Sanders, Cleveland. No Sanders there. There's no Sanders in 73 unless there's a nameless card. We can look at the very bottom, and he's not a nameless card. So you've got 2 options now. You keep him or you retire him. Now, if you keep him, we got to do a little more digging. The only way you'd keep him is if we found out that they made his 75 or 76 card. So, the 75 roster sheet would have to be exclusively with the Mets. So let's check that roster sheet. This is turning into quite the research project. We'll go back to Super D's and we'll look in the 75 original. He's probably going to be in the reprint. Let's look at those just for fun. 75 Mets. My prediction is he's not in the original, but he's in the reprint. Here's your 75 Mets. Not there. 75 Mets. They didn't make his card. Only one extra player, right? But check this out. Let's go to the reprint. I'm only doing this. I don't have the reprint. I'm not going to play the reprint, but it'd be curious to know this information. So the Mets. I need to zoom here. This is too hard to read. This is like, here we go. Apotica, Baldwin, Hall, Kuzman, Stone, Tate, Webb. Well, look at that. They didn't make it there either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, that's 27 hitters. So that's more extra players than they would have had in the original set. But in either set, they didn't print that card. All right, we're not done yet. We got one more trick up our sleeve. That's to go to 76 and see if they've got a Met or Kansas City card. This is turning into a fun little needle in a haystack thing here. Scavenger hunt. Looking for Ken Sanders. Searching for Ken Sanders. Ken Sanders, where are you? So the Mets in 76. No Ken Sanders there. Met extra pitchers. Nope, not there either. Expansion teams information. These are extra pitchers they made for the teams that were about to play. How cool was that? Just to predict how players were going to play. Huh. And they even have roster sheets a little differently. Because they took players off those teams and put them on Seattle and Toronto. Interesting. Let's look at Kansas City. Bird, Busby, Gura, Hassler, Leonard, Littell, Mingori, Patton, Splittorff. And let's look over here for Kansas City. Pre-expansion split. Probably not. Only had 3 innings pitched, but sometimes they do that. They put them on a lesser team. There it is. There's no Ken Sanders. Does not exist. And that is a shame. It's a shame to see a decent pitching performance. You see the 75 is a 104 whip in 43 innings. I'd like to have that card. I really would. And the 76, 50 innings, 114 whip. That's a shame. That's very disappointing. It really hurts the league when you can't get a quality card like that. It just invites a worse card into the league. So Ken Sanders now, he's retired. No Strat cards in 73, 4, 5, or 6. Oh, we didn't look at 74, but he only pitched 20 innings there. How about that? This is the biggest digging for a card I've had to do since I've been doing these elimination videos. I did 4 years, could not get us Ken Sanders card. And that is the end of his career then. Wow. Well, he ended his career in the final game, pitched a couple of innings mopping up against the Expos in the game they lost. Well, this team's in a little bit of trouble in the offseason, as predicted. The Brewers aren't going to be good or contending yet until later in the decade. They only have 2 guys they want to keep. One, Steve Hubley. So they could do all sorts of stuff here. They need to, maybe they could even trade some of the other players they have on this team, like an Ollie Brown who's pretty good. Maybe they can move George Scott to Boston they got him from Boston actually. Or maybe they can move Don McMahon, the closer, and they don't, So anyway, 2 keepers, 2 waivers, 4 retirees. That's not good math. They're going to have to make some deals in the offseason because you want 4 keepers, 2 waivers, and 2 retirees. That's the math we need. But we have all the way until next March when the 2025 draft begins to make those choices. Thanks for checking this out, eliminating the Milwaukee Brewers, and we'll see you next time.